Welcome to the University of Washington. Today we'll be filming backstroke stroke drills. Assisting us today and demonstrating will be Kim Harada and David Moylanen. Hello again, welcome to Seattle. I'm Mickey Wender, and today we're going to talk about some basic concepts that will help your swimming from a technique standpoint. Remember, the sport of swimming is very unique. It involves the fitness requirements of sports like biking and running, and more importantly, the technique and fine motor skills of sports like tennis and golf. We're going to focus on these videos on the techniques, the basic skills necessary to achieve a lifetime of success in your sport. It's all about technique, and really the sport of swimming is a technique sport. To get faster, you've got to improve technically. Practice definitely does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. You could practice the wrong thing all day, it's still going to be wrong, which is why technique in swimming is everything. We're going to demonstrate a lot of different drills today, run through a lot of different body positions and some key concepts. It's all simple, basic stuff that will make a huge difference in your swimming performance. The progressions are also key. It's very difficult to move on to step 2 until you've mastered step 1, which is why we spend a lot of time on streamlining. Again, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect, and that's what we're all about here today, working on basic techniques, again, that'll make a big difference in your swimming. Perfect practice makes perfect. The most important position in swimming is the streamline. We start teaching the streamline even with our college athletes on dry land using the mats, trying to get a nice flat back position. What we're looking for is to get the lower back and the neck as flat against the mat as we can, eliminating any daylight that you might see in those two areas. David's done a great job. He's spent a lot of time developing that core strength so he can get a nice flat back position. The next step in going to the streamline is taking his hands, extending them up top, taking one hand, putting it on top of the other, folding the thumb around the outside, making a hand sandwich, and coming into a nice long streamline position, trying to get legs together, toes pointed, and a good flat neck. Want to lift the head up slightly so we can squeeze the arms right in the back of the head as it starts to round out. And that's a perfect streamlined position. Great job, David. Really good. Once we've perfected the streamlined position, we like to take the swimmers out of the pool and introduce the kick again on dry land. Back on the mats, Kim's going to show us that nice long streamlined position. Go ahead and stretch out. Again, notice the flat back, the good solid neck position, toe point. It's beautiful. To introduce the kick, what I'd like to have Kim do now is bring her hands down, put them under her lower body, lift your feet up 6 inches, and just slowly start to move your feet. Notice all the power in this flutter kick comes directly from the hips, trying to keep the legs relatively straight, working through about an 8 to 12 inch range of motion on that flutter kick. That's a great toe point, and that's beautiful. Go ahead and lower your feet down, and let's get back into the streamline. Really stretch it out. Make sure we're in line, and then go ahead, hands under. Lift them up, and kick. Perfect. Keep them going. Smooth, steady kicks. And streamline. Okay, once we've got a great streamline established on the mats, we like to take it vertical to the wall and make sure that they can do it with some vertical forces working on them, standing straight up and down. We use the wall just to make sure that their backs are nice and flat. If I can stick my hand in there, then we don't have the good streamlined flat back position. They both have it great with their arms at their side. Now as they raise their arms up top, it gets a little bit more challenging to maintain that good flat back and neck. That's beautiful for both swimmers. Really nice job. This is a good, fast, streamlined position. Get that neck back. Sometimes when you're streamlined, you're going to make some extra chins. We call that a chicken neck. And that's a way to check to make sure you're in position. That's beautiful right there. Good backs. Great job. We're ready to get in the pool. As we teach each of the strokes, we're going to try to develop some body awareness through the different segments of our body, staying focused on our core, our hips, our lower back, our abdominals, as the main focus of all of our teaching. As we progress outward, we'll incorporate the kick and then the arm stroke and finally put all the pieces together into a logical framework and system for each of the 4 competitive strokes. Remember, body awareness, starting with the hip, balance forward and back, and side to side are going to be the key concepts that we build upon for each of the 4 strokes. Once we've perfected the streamlined position on dry land, we take it into the water and work on balancing and staying connected in some different board balance drills is what we call it. These drills were created by the great swimming coach Bill Boomer from back east, and there's something we do almost every day in our training. Board balance now, getting into that streamlined position, starting in a real stable body position, what we would call an X position. Kim is just going to make sure that David has a nice flat back. She'll check the space between the boards and his spine and a good stable neck position. Putting your body into a slight banana-shaped position, as you'll see in a couple minutes, will enable David to move through the water in the most efficient means possible. A little bit different than freestyle, not quite as flat. We'll get to that part in a minute. Again, we start this drill in an X position, arms and legs spread nice and stable, and then we'll bring the legs together and come into a Y, nice and slow. And Kim all the time is just making sure he's in the right position. I want to get those legs closer together. Beautiful. Remember, David's balancing on 3 kickboards right now. This is a challenging thing. You need to be strong, connected, and balanced. The next part of this will raise the arms up top and come right into a nice tight streamline. Notice you get a little tippy as the streamline takes effect. Okay? A lot of people will use their feet for balance. In fact, in freestyle and backstroke, only about 20% of your propulsive force is going to come from your kick. In most cases, people use their legs for balance. As you can see, David right there is using his feet, the largest muscles in his body, to keep himself in line, balanced, and connected. If we can balance through the core, we can balance through the hips, it frees up your legs to do a lot more work and help you go faster. That's a great board balance position there. Great job, David. Thanks, Kim. As soon as we've got the swimmer balanced on the kickboards, we work into a basic push-off streamline glide drill on your back. Again, we're pushing off on our side. We're rotated towards our back, getting a great streamline glide for distance. Go ahead, David. Notice no bubbles on that push-offs. Beautiful entry. Little bit of balance work with his feet. You can tell he uses his legs to stay balanced, but that's a great, nice, smooth, long streamline. Same thing now for Kim. Go ahead. Beautiful, clean submersion. And again, you can see her using her feet for balance. That's very common. Blowing some air out of her nose so she doesn't get water up it. Great job. As soon as we've got underwater travel perfected, or at least a real good streamlined glide for distance, we introduce a drill called the balance up. This is the same drill, except we want the body to surface as one unit, fingers, toes, and torso all reaching the surface at the same time. Let's watch David do what we call a back balance up. Kim's going to show us the same thing. Again, no underwater kicking, just push off, streamline, and glide for distance. Notice the awareness there. She's manipulating little parts of her body, staying connected, and there she comes, surfacing as one unit. That's great body control. Takes a lot of practice to perfect those balance ups. Great job, guys. Once we've taught streamline and underwater travel, we incorporate the backstroke flutter kick. You already saw us practice it on dry land, trying to keep the motion very simple, power coming from the hips, a good solid toe point. We have our swimmers now demonstrating flutter kick just in the water. Stationary position, we call this a bracket drill. To do this drill correctly, as you can see, you take one hand, put it on the gutter, take your other hand, extend it down about a foot below the surface, fingers pointed towards the bottom of the pool, and support yourself in position. It's a great way also for the coach to watch and critique as they go. Kim, let's make that kick a little bigger, a little more amplitude. Beautiful. Notice the heels break the surface, but the rest of the foot stays submerged. We want to keep the kick underwater. It's very hard to swim in the air. We want to use the water to the best of our ability. Heels break the surface, but for the most part, you want to keep your feet down. Feet centered with your hips, and again, body position and staying in a good line is critical on this. Notice the swimmers are keeping their necks in position and breathing to the side. Again, staying streamlined at all costs. Once we've got the flutter kick the way we want it on the wall, we'll introduce some vertical kicking, having our swimmers in place vertically with their toes pointed towards the bottom, their heads up, nice and straight, in working through a vertical kicking pattern. Be careful to make sure the hips don't drop. Probably coaches want to be reminding your swimmers to press their hips forward and keep their bodies up in a nice vertical line. The next step from just straight vertical kicking is to take the hands away. You can see right now they're sculling, feeling the water a little bit. Let's take the hands away and put hands above the surface and force them to kick a little bit faster to maintain that position. That's beautiful. Really nice work. Let's go ahead and bring the hands up to your head. Hold it there. It's a little bit more difficult. You can see David's hips are starting to slide back and his knees are bending a little bit more. We want to try to remind the swimmers as it gets more difficult, maintain the technique. Critical skill. Let's bring this into a streamlined position. Hold it nice and long. Beautiful job. Both David and Kim are pretty good kickers, and they do an excellent job of holding that in position. Vertical kicking for flutter kick is a great, great drill. As we introduce each basic stroke, we're going to start by developing a performance platform or a streamlined and stable body position from which you can work all of the basic concepts into the stroke. We're going to start by trying to stabilize our lower back and our neck and create the most long, streamlined body that we possibly can. Then we'll add rotation, kick, and the arm stroke into each stroke, starting with freestyle, working to backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly, and building one skill on top of the other. We're going to work progressively through each of the 4 strokes. It's very important that we perfect one skill before we move on to the next. Vertical kicking is a great way to teach a lot of aspects of both the freestyle and the backstroke. Kicking vertically here, you can see our swimmers have perfected or have gotten great streamlined positions together. We've worked on the flutter kick, and now we want to introduce rotation. It's the core of swimming. Being able to rotate your body, to manipulate your hips and your core body through a range of motion is critical. You can see our swimmers now starting to just slowly get their hips involved in a little bit of rotation. You can see Kim pointing that hip towards the opposite wall. The head and shoulders are staying relatively still, and the hips are rotating around a central axis. Freestyle and backstroke are very similar. In fact, we teach those strokes first and we work on them together because they're both what we would call long axis swimming strokes. In other words, your body is rotating around a central axis of rotation, a long axis that would run from the top of your head straight through the core of your body, out, down, through your torso. And the whole body rotates around a center axis of rotation. Long axis swimming, backstroke and freestyle, we're working on the rotation here in the water. Great job, guys. Once we've got the swimmers kicking correctly on the wall, we've taken that into a vertical position and we're sure they can maintain a streamline, then we start working on some different body positions coming off the wall. The first one, Kim's just going to show underwater streamline kick. She's going to push off, underwater, streamline, and kick at 25 in a nice, long, streamlined body position. Go ahead, Kim. Notice the flat back, good, steady, quiet head position. That's beautiful. Trying to maintain her depth. Finishes to the wall on her side. Good job, Kim. David's going to push off the wall in a streamlined position, rotate over to his right side, keep the bottom arm extended and the top arm at his side, and stay locked into that side kick position on his right side. Go ahead, David. Good push off streamline. He rotates over, slides the top arm down, the bottom arm's extended, and he stays locked into that position. If he takes a breath, he does it quickly, and then he puts his head right back down in line. David doesn't even want to breathe on this. Kim's demonstrating the same thing David just showed, maintaining a great body position, kicking on her left side. Go ahead, Kim. Again, bottom arms extended, top arms at her side, keeping it nice and long, and when she breathes, she gets her head right back down in position. That's a critical part of this. Your head's the densest, biggest part of your body. Where your head goes, your body's going to follow. It's like the locomotive on a train. If your body's moving all over the place, if your head's bouncing all over the place, that's what your body's going to do, and you're not going to have a very efficient stroke. Fastest stroke in swimming is freestyle. The second fastest stroke in swimming is underwater dolphin kick. If you can develop a good underwater dolphin kick, that is a weapon that will help you immensely in your backstroke races and freestyle, actually, In fact, they've made rules about how far you can push off and kick underwater because how effective it is in racing. Underwater dolphin kick is something that most of our backstrokers use, and it will help you go faster. David's going to demonstrate now the push-off, streamline, glide for distance in backstroke, and he'll demonstrate a good, long streamline. Let's watch David now. Pushes off and glides till he slows to about swimming speed, then maintains the good body position, and he's just working on kicking the entire way. Didn't mind the 15-meter mark, but that's okay. That's a drill that'll help him get home the final 25 in a 200. Great job, David. Kim's going to push off, streamline glide, show the same drill David just did, except in a side kicking position. Go ahead, Kim. Kim will typically take 3 dolphin kicks off the wall and then rotate onto her side. Notice her eyes looking straight up at the ceiling, her shoulders pointing straight up in the air. That's a beautiful side kicking position for backstroke. Perfect form right there. Great job, Kim. Okay, David will demonstrate underwater streamline, glide, and backstroke, rotating to his right side and holding onto a great body position for the 25. Side kicking for backstroke. Go ahead, David. Four dolphin kicks and holding onto a great position. Beautiful job. Outstanding. David's going to show the same thing in backstroke. Again, push off, streamline, glide. He'll drop one arm down, then surface and drop the other arm to his side and rotate through the drill. Good push off, drops one hand, then the other, stays lined up. That's a little jerky. That's a little bit rough. We want it to be a bit smoother, a little bit closer to what you saw Kim doing, but still through a full range of motion. That was beautiful. David's going to do the same thing, this time a little quicker, a little smoother, a little bit more connected. For backstroke, once we've got the streamline, the kick, and the core body position established, we've worked on some rotation, we want to do a simple drill that forces your hand into the correct position on entry. We call it double arm backstroke. Very simply, you lift your thumbs out of the water, bring your arms straight up top, enter shoulder width apart, and press through a full pull. Let's watch David double arm backstroke, keeping his legs going nice and strong. Dolphins off the wall. On the backstroke pull, we want to make sure that as soon as the hand enters the water, that we begin that catch phase, that we begin that press. I don't know how many of you watch the Japanese swimmers at the Olympics in Sydney, but they've developed a new kind of backstroke where they're entering almost palm first and catching the water and getting a real scoop. At the very least, we need to make sure that we're little finger first and the hand is driving down, getting depth into the pull so we can get a nice high elbow and press and rotate over to the other side. Let's watch Kim do single arm backstroke. Good push off, streamline and glide. She does her 4 dolphin kicks and is working with the left arm. Again, little finger first, pressing through a full range of motion, and the right arm is going to stay at her side. Hips and body rotate fully as she works through the stroke. Kim, let's come on back with the right arm. Again, good glide. And the right arm pulls through. Getting good rotation, good steady head position. The feet are kicking. Beautiful. Remember, in backstroke and freestyle, your feet are like the rudder. Your feet are what keeps your body going straight. It's only going to provide about 20% of the propulsive force, but it keeps you balanced and it keeps your body in position. The kick for backstroke and freestyle, that's the rudder. That's what's going to keep you moving straight. The skills, the drills, the techniques that we'll work on in these videos are a synthesis of a lot of different ideas and concepts drawn from a lot of different coaches over a lot of different years. Please understand that it represents a logical progression of skills and drills that will lead you to your desired outcome, which is great swimming technique at the end. Do all these ideas belong directly to Mickey Wender? No, of course not. Most of them were taken from different coaches and ideas and things that make sense to provide, again, a logical framework that will lead to success in the swimming pool. For backstroke, once we've got the single arm stroke as long and smooth, as efficient as we need it, we'll introduce some variations. The simplest one, of course, being single arm drill, this time taking 3 strokes with the right arm, followed by 3 strokes with the left arm. Go ahead, David. Notice the good, clean rotation. Slight hesitation with this hand on entry, which is something we could work on, but otherwise that's a good, clean, single arm drill. Great job, David. Something to think about. When you're swimming, there's an optimum hand position that you can have. It's not totally closed. It's not going to be with your fingers spread. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. One thing you can do to figure out the best hand position for you to use when you're swimming is ask your parents if it's okay, but when you're driving in the car, stick your hand out the window. Make sure it's safe, make sure you've asked permission, and figure out what hand position gives you the most resistance when you put your hand out there. And I guarantee it's not like this, it's not like this, but you will have an optimal hand position with your fingers slightly spread that'll show you the best hand position for you to use in freestyle or backstroke. Believe it or not, another drill we use quite a bit on backstroke is called lane line press. We call it a press and not a pull because what we want you to do is set your hand in the water, reach back and put your hands between the floats on the lane line and press yourself through the correct range of motion. Don't pull, don't drop your elbow, it's a lane line press. Let's watch David. He'll do this as a single arm drill, keeping his opposite hand down at his side. That orients himself and that right hand reaches back, presses all the way through a full range of motion. Notice the shoulders. He's enjoying, he's having fun with that. The last drill we're going to demonstrate, showing the full stroke, is something we call mini-max swimming. Basically, on this set, we're going to count our strokes, get our time off the clock, add those 2 numbers together, and come up with what we call our mini-max number. So it's the number of strokes plus your time in seconds, creating a mini-max number. So basically what you're doing is taking fewer strokes, or going faster, or a combination of the two to make this number lower, which is basically our sport in a nutshell. Going faster with less effort. Kim now will be demonstrating mini-max 50s freestyle. It's a very, very simple drill, and we'll just work through it as we go. Go ahead, Kim. Ready to start number one. I start my watch, so I'm getting her time, and I'm counting just left arm strokes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes, 5. If I want to get fancy, I'll get her split. 15-9 was her split. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10.5 strokes. The time was 32.7. Coach Dykstra is going to put the number up on the board just for demonstration purposes. 10.5 and 32.7. We'll give Kim a mini-max number of 42 or 43.2. Now, some people will count both arms. Some people will just count one arm. For simplicity's sake, we just counted one arm on that drill. Kim, I know, is in the habit of counting both. So for these last two, we'll count both, so she has a meaningful number to work off of. And that's important for all of you. You need to keep these consistent. Kim went 148.6 in the 200-yard freestyle. That day in warm-up, she was 48.6 in her mini-max, and that was a lifetime best and a really big deal. Got her feeling good about going up and racing the 200. We happen to think there's a correlation between your mini-max number and your ability to get up and compete. Go ahead, Kim. Again, she's counting strokes. This number will be a little different. 3, 4. Notice how nice and long it is. She's got her elbow up. No splash. Remember, swimmers, splash is slow. We're trying to keep this as smooth as we can. Nice and long, great rotation. That was 17 strokes, a little bit faster time, 32.0, which is going to give her somewhere in 49 range. That is outstanding. That is really good early season mini-max score for Kim. We'll do the last one. Let's see if she can drop it. Obviously, the name of the game in swimming is improvement. That's what we're looking for here, whenever you're ready. Obviously, she goes to the legs and uses a little bit more with the legs. Legs being the largest muscle in your body require quite a bit of energy to power them. In other words, it'd be hard to swim a mile with a great kick. Beautiful. 30.1 was the time. Same strokes, but she got faster. 30.1 and 17, 47.1. That's outstanding work. Way to go, Kim. Great job. Back crawl, very similar to freestyle, as it's a long axis stroke. Like we talked about on freestyle, backstroke rotates around a long axis of rotation. Very similar mechanically to the freestyle. So a lot of the drills we do will be very similar to the ones you saw in freestyle yesterday. An interesting observation about backstroke. I've been going to the national championships for a long time. And I'll tell you, of the 4 competitive strokes, backstroke is the one where elite performers look the most similar. In other words, you go to the nationals, and there are certain things that backstrokers do that they all have in common. You'll notice a nice steady head position. You'll notice a beautiful, relaxed, straight arm recovery. You'll notice incredible flexibility and rotation around that axis as their shoulders and hips stay connected and rotate through the stroke. And you'll also notice an incredible kick. A lot of elite backstrokers, especially short course swimmers now, use the underwater dolphin as a way to speed up and enhance their race. It is a weapon, the underwater dolphin kick. Takes a couple years to develop, but there's no question it will help you go faster. How we doing, team?
Great, Coach!
Hey, we're going to talk about some basic swimming principles today. As we introduce the first two strokes, we're going to talk about just some general things that will apply to all of your swimming. Swimming's a unique sport. Swimming requires not only the fitness of track or running or biking and that ability to be fit and to perform your sport, it also involves a lot of skill. And the techniques involved in swimming are critical. We're going to spend some time this morning talking about some of the basic techniques, some of the basic skills that you're going to need to perfect in order to be efficient swimmers. Remember last night we were talking about nutrition, and we were talking about the choices that you make in fueling your machine, fueling your high-octane output swimming machine. We talked about nutrition and how to make those good choices. I'm going to tell you today that your choices that you make in the water are going to determine to a large degree your ability to get from there to there in the shortest possible time. That we have to manage our swimming environment and manage the decisions that we make in the water so that we're as efficient as we can possibly be. Swimming is a technique sport. You've got to be fit. There's no question about it. We've got to get that motor finely tuned and as strong and efficient as it can be. But swimming is a technique sport. It's a lot like golf or tennis or hitting a baseball. You've got to put those little techniques together so you can be as efficient as possible. One part of swimming that we're going to talk a lot about, especially today, is how to balance your body in the water. Is to how to get streamlined, and we talked about that last night, and get balanced so that you can be as effortless, as efficient as you can possibly be. And we're going to talk about two main areas of your body. We talked about them last night. In order to be streamlined and balanced in the water, we've got to get our body as long, as cylindrical, as efficient, as streamlined as it can be. And the two main areas, the two problem areas in swimming are where? Who knows? Yeah. The streamline is the most important part. But the areas where people mess up their streamline, what two parts of your body are you going to have to just stay tuned into all the time? Your head and your hips. We're going to talk a lot about how to stay balanced and how to manage your head, which can be just bobbling around. Remember, I had my little 1-year-old daughter yesterday, and we did the bobblehead with her, and she just kind of bobbled her head. That's not very efficient. And if we have wobbly hips that sway from side to side, that's going to slow you down. So we need to be as streamlined as we can be. We're going to talk about some ways to get balanced and streamlined in the water. Okay? The most important part of your body in swimming is your hips. And we can equate it to a lot of different sports. How many people have watched, we're in Seattle, so Ichiro, the great Japanese Seattle Mariner hitter, in fact, leads the league in hitting for the second straight year. When Ichiro stands in that batter's box and he goes to hit a baseball, and he's in this position here, what's the first part of his body that moves? Hips. If Freddie Garcia is on the mound and he's going to pitch, and he's going to pitch a baseball, what's the first part of his body that initiates the movement? Hips. If Venus Williams is going to return serve on Serena and win Wimbledon like she did 2 days ago, if she's going to hit those 108-mile-an-hour serves or return a 112-mile-an-hour serve, what part of her body does she need to harness the power of in order to be as efficient as possible? Hips. You kind of getting it? That our hips are going to determine the power in the stroke. So we need to do two things. We need to be streamlined, and we need to be tuned into our hips. And all the strokes, all 4 of the strokes, are going to have the same basic teaching progression, where we start by trying to get you streamlined, then we add some locomotion with your legs, we'll introduce the kick, then we'll introduce some rotation, either long axis, we'll talk about that in a second, or short axis, and then we'll put it all together with the arms. But we want you to focus on your streamlined position and your core body, your hips. That's going to be our main focus. In fact, very rarely through these lessons are you going to hear a lot of talk about arms and legs. We're going to use the arms and legs to help create a performance platform for you to get power out of your hips. We're going to watch our swimmers do some different things with that, okay? Why, who can tell me, why do we teach backstroke and freestyle on the same day? They're the same thing but opposite. That's very good. Freestyle and backstroke, same basic mechanics, but freestyle happens with your face down. Backstroke, supine, you're on your back. Zach. Same exact kick for the most part. Absolutely. And the same kind of rhythm. Same type of motion. Yeah. What does that mean? Did everyone hear what he said? They're both long axis strokes. Go ahead. Explain to us. So your body's stretched out as long as it can be. Maybe we talk about an imaginary axis running straight down through my head, through my body, out the bottom of my feet, and everything rotates around that long axis of rotation. You get it? Long axis, as opposed to short axis, which would be which strokes? Breaststroke and butterfly. And everything in breaststroke and butterfly rotates around a short axis of rotation right at your hips. And it all happens right in here. Is that starting to make sense to everybody? Let's get into some basic backstroke drilling. The first one we do we call double arm backstroke. It's very simple, and it just helps figure out what your arms and hands are supposed to be doing. We're going to exit with the thumbs, rotate our arms while they're above the surface, and enter with the pinky shoulder width apart. Then just press through the stroke. Exit with the thumbs, rotate straight arms while they're above the surface, and enter with the little fingers shoulder width. Okay, double arm backstroke. Let's watch April do that. Excellent. Single arm backstroke drills, basically the same as freestyle, except we only do the single arm with our opposite hand down at our side. I don't recommend doing single arm backstroke with one arm up. It's not going to help you. So keep your opposite hand down. Let's watch Hannah go right arm backstroke with her left arm down at her side. Love how she stays in the rhythm of the stroke. Drops the arm down and gets right into it. Go ahead, Des. Beautiful. With our single arm drilling, we'll go through multiple variations and a lot of different styles of single arm. Let's watch April go 3 right, 3 left. Let's watch Hannah go 2 right, 2 left. And Des, show us the full stroke back. Beautiful. Excellent. Round of applause, please. All right. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. On backstroke, if I'm pushing off that wall, I can stay submerged until I get to these red marks, these 15 meters. My head's got to break the surface before I get to these marks, or I could get disqualified. The only rule in backstroke is you've got to surface by 15 meters, and you got to stay where? On your back. And you can't push off the bottom in any of the strokes. Thanks for taking the time to progress through the drills and build a perfect stroke for yourself. Remember, swimming's a technique sport. We need to stay focused on the basic concepts, stay connected, stay in our core, and build proper strokes from the inside out. But remember, swimming is a lifestyle sport. All the training in the world can never make up for a poor lifestyle. We've got to make sure we get enough sleep, we have proper nutrition, we're staying hydrated, and we're doing the little things away from the pool that will lead to big success later on in your swimming career. Remember, swimming is a lifetime sport. All the training in the world can never make up for a poor lifestyle. Live the life of a champion. Congratulations on accepting the challenges of competitive swimming, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Remember, success in swimming has nothing to do with what you do compared to what somebody else does. Success in swimming, success in life, is about being the best that you can be. It's about challenging your limits, testing your potential, being the best that you can be. Congratulations on accepting the challenges of competitive swimming. And thanks for playing with us here at the University of Washington. Have a great day.